I'm glad that you and I kind of hung into getting this meetup time.
Yes.
I enjoyed you so much at college.
Thank
Oh
you.
my gosh. And your pink boots.
It was funny. I wasn't supposed to actually wear them to class, but when it snowed, I didn't have
Uh,
much of a choice. I like cover the feet.
you brought a sense of fun, but remembering the purpose of why we're there, we get together. And that's to live out really the American Legion's mission, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
When we were in college, learned that you teach spirituality.
I've taught at college before and
Okay.
university level, different classes, and I was ordained to go out as a pastor.
Okay.
And that was under the Pentecostal faith. So, but at this point, I'm non denominational, so I embrace it all.
We change over time. And so I was hoping that we could get together and just really kind of unpack a little bit, if you will. What is spirituality? You know, how does it connect with faith? The importance, to me, it's foundational.
Yeah. So we talk about our soul, and
Mm-hmm.
people feel their soul, but what they don't understand is they can feel their spirit also. And
Yeah.
the spirit is what gives you what they say is an unction or a
Mm-hmm.
nudge to go in
Yep.
a direction you wouldn't normally do that the soul might feel. Say, for
Yep.
instance, you were angry. The soul might be angry and want to
Yeah.
lash out, but the spirit will say, take one more second out and see if you can find a positive space to go.
Mm. The spirit must invite you into that pause
Yes,
between
yes,
the amygdala and the frontal lobe. The spirit's going to kind of
exactly.
like put it both all together.
Yes. And
Yeah.
you know, people like to say that spirituality and religiosity are the same. But the
Mm.
religiosity is where that's what you practice.
Yep.
You go
Yeah.
to a church or to a home or wherever you might meet. I know there's one in our town that they meet at a theater, a movie theater,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a section just for them to meet. And they practice what their belief is. So it could be Methodist or it could be Pentecostal, it could be Episcopal, and those are practices. But
Yeah.
but when it comes to the spirit, it doesn't know and it doesn't actually respond to the religion itself. It responds to the human being and its connection to God.
Yeah.
So when this,
It transcends.
yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
transcends both time and space.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So when we're walking in the spirit, we may be led in different directions. Excuse me as I use my hands. If when we're
You
led by
fine.
the spirit, we take a different direction of what the normal looks like. Because here on
Mm-hmm.
earth, normal is many different things. What you see in Asia, parts of Africa, here in America,
Mm-hmm.
even separating America into different pieces, it looks different.
Yeah.
But what is the same is God. And when we respond to Him, the Spirit moves. So the
Always.
spirituality will allow us to see things better, clearer, and with
Yeah.
less antagonistic manners against ourselves, really, because we're His creation.
Yes. And how we understand that evolves or transforms over time. It's that to me, that's where the relationship piece is. Are you going to allow the spirit, if you
Yes.
will, to inform you? Um, I'm one of the things I've been delving into, and I'm sure you can talk about this too, is you know how you'll just get a sense that you want to do something different, or you're going to read this book, or you're going to hang out with these friends. To me, that is not a cognitive function. That's a spiritual function.
Right.
To me, that's a spiritual thought informing my physicality.
Right. And then it's telling you to keep your body healthy also.
Exactly.
Because your soul might say, boy, that piece of cake, some ice cream, and the TV sounds good.
You're so nummy.
And while it does, would it
Uh-huh.
benefit you the most 2 o'clock in the afternoon?
Right.
When you could go take a walk and
Exactly.
enjoy the air that God gave us. You might hear some birds chirping, and they'll be
Mhm.
talking to you also and saying, to me, the birds always say, "Isn't God good? Isn't God good?" While they
All
sing
the
to us.
time.
And you see the
All the
trees
time.
swaying, and they always are swaying towards God. And you just get to relax the mind and let him speak to you the way he wants to. And
Yeah.
that translation was, I needed some time with you without the
Always.
distractions.
Yeah. Because we can get busy with the distractions.
And there are good and bad distractions.
Always.
I've learned over time that some distractions don't benefit God.
Mm.
They're just
You want to
busy
talk
work.
more?
It's busy
Oh,
work.
yeah.
I've been in church settings where, because of my knowledge, they wanted to, and I just say knowledge, they wanted to use
Mhm.
me in different things.
Yeah.
And yes, the knowledge might be there, but did it actually benefit God? It may not be what He wanted me to do. It may have been something assigned to someone else. And because I was responding to, yes, yes, I will, yes, I will, I lost track of what he wanted me to do, he or she, what God wanted me to do,
Yeah.
instead of the busy work that the church may have me to do, such as, um, at one point they had me doing mission work, and they also
Mhm.
had me doing, going to the hospitals, doing
Mhm.
funerals, on the praise team,
Mhm.
and teaching, Sunday school, and helping with
Yeah.
Bible study, right? Where does family come in? You continue because, yes, we're trying to grow the church, and we want more people to be saved, and we want them to understand God so much
Mhm.
more. But
Yeah.
for me, it was God and then family, and then the activities of the church to build in his tabernacle.
Mhm.
But if family is lost, then I've lost the
Mhm.
purpose of God.
We can be so busy doing the work of God that we squeeze God out and we miss
Imagine
the whole
that.
point of it all. And then
Yeah.
throw in the whole mix in America, we're sometimes we're consumers more than we are beings,
Ooh, yes,
right?
yes. And that
And so,
consumption leads to just a full belly.
yeah,
A
yes,
belly full of things to actually give birth to, and no
yeah,
accomplishments that are effective to what God's purpose is. I
yeah.
hope I'm
And
speaking the
that
same
productive.
language you are.
Well, and then the whole productive piece, right?
Yeah.
Like, how productive do we know that we're created to do work and to be productive. But I'm always thinking of the pendulum that swings back and forth,
Yes.
and your strengths can always be your weaknesses. That Achilles heel piece too. And as I get older, balance seems to play more of a truth for me.
Yes.
Like, keep things in balance.
And as we grow older, we also have to realize, in our physical being, we may still have the fire. It's
Mm-hmm.
not dim, but we do need to control it better, because we're not moving like a 20-year-old. At least I'm not. At
Right?
least I'm not.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Your gait changes as you get older.
Right.
Um,
As
yeah.
we become
Yeah.
more sedentary in nature.
I wish our culture, the image of the elders at the gate,
Hmm.
that they welcomed you into the community.
Yes.
I wish that somehow we could make that happen in our culture today, in our little pockets of communities. Where are our elders?
Yes, our elders are sometimes afraid now.
Are they?
Some of them are. I think
Mm.
they deal with the fact that they don't know how many more years are in front of them.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They also
Yep.
think about, should I mind my own business? And that's the soul talking. That's the soul talking. But when the spirit talks, they're going to give you the right words to say to the right person, and they will not be offended. They might be
There's,
confused that you were forward with them to give them
yeah,
information. And if they indulge you a little longer, you'll tell them more about the love of God and how much He has for them. Young people, they're going through a different kind of phase compared to when I grew up.
yeah.
I'm a baby boomer. So the having a traditionalist explain life to me was completely different because they came
Hmm.
out of war.
Yeah.
I've never seen war personally because I was right after the Vietnam era when I went into
Okay.
the service. So personally, I never saw war, but I saw the effects of war.
Yeah.
The younger people we meet, they're not sure what 911 was. Some of them were not born. So it's a history story for them
Mm.
rather than a reality. And when we think about what 911 did, everybody came together. It
Everybody.
wasn't pockets, it was an American community.
Yeah.
No one saw race or color or cultures. They saw human life and protecting it on every side. And if we can continue to have that kind of thought in our minds and mean it with
Hmm.
passion and mean it with love and just have God pour into us as we pour out as his hands, his feet, his mouth, they'll see it. They'll see what we're talking about, that there's so much more to this realm than what meets the eyes because we don't see everything perfectly. We don't even
Yeah.
see the whole scope. He shows us a little bit at a time, and we just have to be ready to receive what we have. And when he says go, just go. So when
Just
I talk
go.
to when I talk to younger people, which I do all the
Uh-huh.
time, I
Uh-huh.
I don't try to speak their language because the language
Oh.
changes. I call it slang. They might call it something else, but I don't speak slang. Um,
Uh-huh.
but what I speak is God's love,
Uh,
right? And,
yeah.
and when we think about God's love, the word never changes. The word love, that
Mm.
action, that verb, that noun, that word
Yeah.
never changes. And everybody is
Ever.
seeking love.
Always.
Even the person that says, or people say, is such a bad person, they want love too. Their
Always.
method might be what we approve of,
Yep.
and how they seek it is probably not what we're going to approve of, but what they want is love. They want to be recognized as someone that could care. And when you go into the prisons, you find out a lot of people find God, and he might take on different forms in terms of Islamic faith or the Christianity faith, but they're still seeking
Hmm.
a higher being. Uh,
Yep.
and so when we show them love, it doesn't say a
Hmm.
particular name. It just
Just
says,
not
I'm here for
love.
you and I love you.
Mhm. And
That's how we have to
yes.
continue reaching for them. And I have 14 grandchildren, so the youngest
You
is,
do?
yeah, I do.
I would have never known.
And the youngest is
Oh
4
my God.
now.
Oh,
And they all call me grandmama. And
grandmama.
grandmama, the oldest one, she's
Mm.
22, almost 23. She started it.
Okay.
She called me grandmama. And so all of them call me grandmama. especially when you have blended families and additional grandmas come in. I'm just grandmama. And
Yeah,
talking to
that's
a
the constant.
4-year-old is so rewarding for me. She's
Uh-huh.
smart, she's bright, she's pretty and very flamboyant, and yet she wants that hug. You know,
Why does she want the hug? Yeah, why do we want a hug?
why do we want a hug? How
Why
much
do we want a hug?
how much comfort do we get in a hug?
That goes beyond the physical, biological hardwiring. That is our soul or our spirit. That is the essence of who we are,
That's right.
connecting.
That's right.
And we can
Without
manifest it physically.
That's right, without words, just the hug. When you give a stranger a hug, and I always ask, "Can I give you a hug?" And they say, "Sure." And it's like, "Oh, I needed that." But what is
Yeah.
it that they needed with the
Yeah.
hug? What did the hug give
Yes. Yes. Something so simple as another human touching another human in care
in care?
and embracing.
That's right. I don't know
I
you,
got you.
but I love
I
you.
don't know you,
And I'm
but I
hugging
love
you
you.
because the love that God gives me, I want to give to you. And He loves me a
Yes.
lot. I will say, I get my great share of His love every single day. Yeah.
We're both part of the American Legion. I'm
Yes.
in the Department of Minnesota. You're in the Department of
New Mexico.
New Mexico. And we are talking together, and that's one of the great things about the American Legion. It brings people that have a common bond together. So thank
Yes.
you. We have the Be the One
Yes.
program. And one of the things that is missing at the table is the spirituality piece. That for me, I think the American Legion can ensure that all the vested stakeholders, like who you are as a spiritual being, is part of the fight, if you will, because
Yes.
it takes off the fight and brings us together as humans that struggle. We
Yes.
all suffer. We all have spiritual struggles. We all have physical struggles. We all have financial struggles.
Yes.
Not all of us have the degree of hopelessness that
Yes.
someone that ends up taking their lives experiences. But we have the capacity to be together and to be for
Yes.
life.
Yes.
I honestly think that the American Legion can ensure that all the vested stakeholders are present at the table and that their voices have the respect and the best investment into letting people know that they're valued human beings. And yes, suffering is part of life,
Yes, it is.
and we're here for you.
I feel, this is my opinion, that the different departments not only should have that coordinator that runs the Be the One, but that the post chaplains should be very involved in the Be the One program.
Nope.
They can voice their opinion about
Yep.
the different things that are going on in the post. They don't get a vote, but because they're coming from a faith based or spiritual response, at least the post will look at it. So there, personal experience, I've gone into the post some days and zeroed in right on a person. There could be a celebration going on and I just
Yeah.
see it because I've looked in their eyes and I'm like, mm-mm. And you could call it rude if you want to, but I usually stop them from talking to whoever else they're talking to, and I start engaging them in conversation because, unbeknownst to me, because it's the spirit
Mm-hmm.
talking to me, I start
Mm-hmm.
talking into their lives, to that
Yep.
person's life, to move them away from what it is they find, pulling them away from life itself to giving
Yeah.
life a second chance.
Yeah.
That's the chaplain's duty, to see that,
Hmm.
to keep the peace, to keep love abounding amongst everyone,
Yeah.
to bridge the gaps between the older generation and the younger generation.
Yeah.
Not tell them what to do, but let them see, I once was young and now I'm old. I'm young right now, but I will get older. To make that
Yeah.
mesh so that they can speak to each other and find that
Yeah.
language that says, I too am important. And so, as recently as probably 2 weeks ago, we had an
Uh-huh.
occasion, and there was a gentleman sitting by himself. I'm in charge of the auxiliary. I'm the president of auxiliary, so I'm collecting monies and making sure people eat. And I go over to the
Hmm.
gentleman and I say, "Are you ready to eat?" And he says, "No, I don't think I'm going to eat." And then my little nosy eyes said, "Oh, you sending a nice little love message. I love that." Little heart. He said, "This is to my mom. She's checking on me because
Hmm.
I was thinking about committing suicide."
Oh, and he shows up at the post.
And it just ding 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 ding. Now, why I check with everybody, but he didn't have to
Hmm.
tell me that. He could have just sat there
No.
really quiet, but he came
Yeah.
in because something led him. And I'm going to say the spirit led
Yeah.
him. The spirit led him to come in. Oh, I'm a terrible pool player. I said, well, let's go play some pool. So he shared some, devastating things that happened to him.
Yeah.
But he has a little hope now. And he comes in to be around other people, talk to other people. I might write a little short poem to him. And sometimes he
Hmm.
says, "This is exactly what I needed." And I always say, "Thank
Yeah.
you." And thank you, God.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I just know, okay, let me send him this. And I let him know when we're having an occasion, come on in. And he comes in. So I feel that with the spirituality and reaching those that lose their way, the American Legion could do it if they engage their chaplains and whoever the chaplains want to recruit to help them, because everybody doesn't have to be a chaplain to do the work of Be the One.
We're all spiritual beings. One of the things that's really unique about the American Legion is we're all veterans.
Yes.
And I'm building that up because sometimes in military service, there's shame.
Mm-hmm.
They've done some horrific acts
Awful. Yes.
that where do you take that and where do you deposit that? Where is forgiveness first and foremost? Here, we know it first is it's with God, but you have to share that story sometimes.
Yes.
I don't know how many people that you've talked with that have that their box, the boxes with all their military stuff in it that they just keep in the basement or they
Right.
keep up in the attic,
Yes.
and they have a story,
That they would love
and
to
so
share.
they need to get it off their chest. I've sat at enough bedsides of dying vets to know that these stories are ever present in their minds. Not everyone has always done good things in the war because the war puts
It,
you right smack up against who you are.
right.
So that to me is like, this is the American Legion. And so I'm thankful that we have chaplains because we should be the ones that have that spiritual homing device, if you will, that you have,
Thank
that
you.
are able to build those relationships, remind us that we are more than.
Right. And the
Right.
thing about it is, no matter which conflict or war that we're in, they have families. And
Yes.
and the families are so affected by it because the person that left to go to war is not the person that comes back.
Nope.
And each time if they go out to war again, a
Yeah.
piece of them stays where they were.
Yep.
And coming back to America and seeing people that
Yeah.
it feels like they don't respect what you did hurts.
Or care, or even
They don't
care.
care. Right. They don't care. They don't understand. How do I explain to my spouse, my friend,
Yep.
my lover, what I've been through? I can't. I don't want to share that with them. And then you
Yes.
have children that are seeing a disconnect.
Yep.
And sometimes it affects them gravely, to see that mom or dad cannot relate. And the fact
Mhm.
that you work with all this billion-dollar equipment, and sometimes you came back and it was hard to find a job that met the same kind of qualifications.
Oh, that's an ongoing issue, isn't it? So that
Yes.
level of competence and capability,
Mm-hmm.
those life and death situations that you live with, just doesn't cut it working at a gas station. Or maybe it does if they
Oh,
leave
maybe
you
it does.
alone.
Right.
Or maybe it does. That's all you want because that's all I need to do because I want to
Right.
do other things. Yeah.
And running a gas station can be very intriguing. That's my
Yeah,
word.
that was
Intriguing.
a bad example because I was like, I was just thinking of working into your capacity. Um,
Mm-hmm. Right.
but
And
some people
right.
choose, yeah, some people choose to work here, get a living,
Right.
and their mind is elsewhere. So, anyway, I have to
So
get through
yeah.
all that because I think that was
Right.
bad.
And that's why it's important that the American Legion is even there, so that if they want to share those stories amongst comrades,
I
they
think so.
can. Um,
Yeah.
the thing about it is, with some of the mental issues, namely PTSD, that people experience,
Hmm.
sometimes they slip into another realm that you don't know where they went, or they hear a sound, you know.
Okay.
um
Are they safe?
are they safe? Is everybody safe? um
Is everybody safe? Yeah.
right. If I can break away from my normal, there was a lady that I met. She teaches Scientology. I don't know how much you know about
Mhm.
Scientology.
A little bit. A little bit.
So amongst taking other courses and classes, I did take a year of that.
Hmm.
And what I found is they help you to bring those events to the forefront, and
Oh, okay.
help you to see it for what it really is, instead of what we think it was. Because if you're under command to do a certain action and you
Hmm.
do it, but your soul and your spirit is saying, I didn't want to do that,
Yeah.
what do you do? What do you do as a person?
Yeah.
And with Scientology, I didn't do anything dealing with PTSD, but just some things that I had thought about over the years. Like, why did mommy want to break up with daddy? And she told me. Like, I needed to figure that out. And I
Hmm.
realized it wasn't what I thought it was, because I was only 4. But
Yeah.
I was able to recall that, and
Hmm.
then after a couple of sessions, put it in perspective. And the fact
Sure.
that we go to war as militia means that we're going to be exposed to these different things.
Yeah.
And what we don't have is what we can do while they're in the military to help them more. What I've seen
Yeah.
recently is there's a big increase in how many people are killing themselves in the military. And there's chaplains everywhere, but you can't get to
Hmm.
everybody at the same times. And some people
Yeah.
don't look like they have any issues, and they might appear as the strongest person around. That's just for an example, but they're really
Yeah.
struggling with everything. And
Yeah.
I know they're looking into that also, and helping those families that might even know that their loved one that's away is struggling. So yes, it's a big feat. I'm glad we have Be the One, and I'm glad the
Hmm.
military's looking at it and the VA's looking at their own. I think it's called Save a Life, something like that. Save a Life, I think it
Mm,
is. They have a course,
okay.
but there's so much more to do if we're going to get healthier as people, where they can feel that they can go on with life, and all those horrific things that happened don't haunt them. They appear as ghosts, and they can't sleep, and everything reminds them of it, and they get
Hmm.
triggered, and you don't know what's going to set them off, and you're trying to be there for them, and they're trying to be there for their families, and the spirit is totally blocked out at that point.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
spirit, the spirit,
Yes.
the spirit is being ignored,
Yeah.
because the soul is so um, hurt. The soul is so feeling like I I did the wrong thing and I shouldn't be here.
It needs to be brought into that conversation,
Right.
talked to. Yeah. Yes.
Last year at the Midwinter Conference, there was a person that wanted to commit suicide, and he was in Afghanistan. And
Hmm.
they sent me to him. But the reason wasn't because of what you would think it would be. It was because two of his inferiors did that. They committed suicide, and he felt responsible for their death.
Sure. Yep.
So it's going round and round, and I can't tell him he can't feel responsible. Those are his thoughts, but to let him know that he has so much to live for, and to let him know that God's going to give him the right words to embrace the others that are still here, so that they can
Hmm.
stay alive also. Because you can't blame yourself because you didn't do it. But it's hard.
Hmm. Or if you do blame yourself, what do you do with that blame? That culpability. If you choose to remain culpable, what are you going to do with it? Is there redemption in that? Can there be a redemption in that? Do you allow for it to exist,
You
to
have to move
release
towards a
you from
positive
it?
angle. You have to
Hmm?
move in a positive, you have to move to a positive angle. What can I do that's going to be positive? And okay, I'm responsible. I got my
Yeah.
big boy pants on, my big girl pants on. What am I going to do now?
What am I
How am
going
I
to
going
do
to help?
now?
Yeah, how do I help the next person? And leaving
Yeah.
the world is not the answer. It's help the
Yeah.
next person.
This whole if I don't feel worthy concept, I'm not worth anymore. I can't live with it, and therefore I need to end it. Um, on many levels, we feel we feel bad, and we wish it didn't happen simply because of redemption. In
Mm-hmm.
my mind,
Right.
because there's so much more. And religions, if we can get back to the religion piece without really staying there too long, are ways that we have talked about and come to some understanding about human suffering.
Right.
And we put it in the doctrinal form. So every major faith group in the world
Right.
has a really well developed concept or doctrinal stance on what
Right.
is suffering. And
Yes.
they take, we go at it different ways, but we have these commonalities, like there's suffering in the world. And the other thing that I was thinking about when you were talking about PTSD that I haven't had this answered really clearly is, why do we feel bad when there's suffering if we are not spiritual beings?
Mm. Right. That's a very good
So,
question.
so why would you not have spiritual subject matter experts, if you will, or people that are more are very curious about that way of living? And is compassion is not a cognitive action, it's a spiritual action.
Right.
And so I'm making my case for us to be at the table, I guess. I, I think
Hmm.
spirituality has been, hacked away at the knees for the past 4 decades, 5 decades. And I
And
think in
that's
American,
definitely generational, the way they looked at things.
well, and yeah, and there's a
Without
whole
really,
slew of it, of
because
the history.
yeah, because the traditionalist was very strong and took care of his home when he came back and made a living, and which is very different from what we're looking at now.
Right. And it's a beautiful world that we live in.
It is.
Yesterday and today is just different.
And I'm glad for the traditionalists because they made a way
Mhm.
for us. They kept us safe. But if we don't
Mhm.
get in there and I agree with you, get that spiritual part in without saying any specific religion, um, we won't get as far as we want to.
Yeah.
Because some of the, like when you do the Be the One and they give you all the questions and they tell you to look at signs, sometimes you just don't get signs.
Sometimes you don't. No. They're covert people that are suffering.
Yes.
And then
And
we feel bad that we miss the signs.
yes, yes.
There's
And they don't want you to worry about them because they want to figure it out themselves. And we don't realize it unless the spirit tells us. And that's why
yeah.
the spirit has to stay clean within us where we can hear and receive all the time. I always do like this. I think it's a dance move, sorry. I used to do praise. I used to do
No,
praise
it's fine.
dance.
Well, it'll be fun for people that are just listening.
But
They're like, "Ooh, I need to go
with the
back and
spirit being
watch."
clean and you being taking your walks or doing meditation where you're thinking about what does the world need and trying to reach out to the whole world and not just in small
Yeah.
parts and then bringing it all in makes such a difference in how the spirit responds because
Yeah.
our faith is so deep. What we believe is so strong.
I don't think it is for everybody. I fear that to many, they don't have the language. You know how you have to get the language. You don't understand math until you learn the language of math,
Right,
if you will.
right.
Like, so you have an underutilized part of you. Like, I used to go to the gym a lot.
Mhm.
I have muscles. I didn't know I had some of the muscles until I started exercising them.
Right,
And I'm like, who knew?
right, and they hurt.
So, and they hurt, but they start to evidence themselves. And
Right.
same as your brain. So to me, I think that one of the biggest issues that we have in our culture today is there's a large swath of people that can go on the internet and read about all the different faiths, but you have to practice it. You have to exercise it. You have to be challenged with it. That's suffering. That's, conundrums.
Mhm.
That's working your way through, trusting, that it is going to be good. If it's not over till it's over, but you don't know what tomorrow may bring, and then trusting that there's a process. Because that's the other part of it is like,
Right.
can you trust that there's a whole process? There's more to your life. Can you allow it to unfold? And there's a richness that you can have in this world.
Right. Right.
And old people are cool.
The people are cool.
Old people are cool.
Young people are
Um,
cool.
young people are cool. One of the things, do you know Henry Nouwen? He's a deceased Catholic priest.
No, I do not.
He, phenomenal writer.
Can I write his name down?
Nouwen, and it's pronounced differently depending on what circles. Henry Nouwen, Henry Henri, Nouwen. He writes to pastors.
Okay.
Um, But one of the things he talked about, one is the wounded healer, like showing our wounds openly. Don't cover them up,
Mm-hmm.
because then you deprive other people from caring for you and seeing that there's wounds.
That's right.
And then the other is our ability to receive care from others, which we like to do when we get
Mm-hmm.
hugs.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're suffering, like the wounded animal that goes and hides,
Right.
we're depriving community to care for.
Right. And sometimes the wounded, they push you away because
Yes.
they don't always want to be comforted because they don't feel they deserve it.
Yeah. That rugged individualism piece too, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think the American Legion has the opportunity. You in New Mexico, me in Minnesota, and together when we come together, um, to create these communities of caring, which you're doing at your post, it sounds like.
Yes, and I was
Yeah.
department chaplain last year, so got to do a lot of it there, going from the different district meetings and encouraging
Yeah.
people, bringing information.
Yeah.
And for me, even though I'm not department chaplain anymore, I still am very involved with what's going on with the Department of Veteran Services and how they're
Mm-hmm.
reaching out. That's why I joined the Governor's Challenge, which takes a look at the different people that have died. And it's after the fact, but they try to find out from the families what was going on.
Kind of like an autopsy, beyond the
Yeah.
autopsy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's in New Mexico.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was written about. Oh gosh, there was I'll remember his name probably after this is over. But the psychological autopsy and the spiritual autopsy. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Right, because you're going to the families, and a lot of times they know the signs, but they didn't know what to do.
Okay.
And so when the veteran takes his life, they'll find out afterwards. And if I am correct, it's Arizona and New Mexico
Oh, two
working
states.
together. Hmm.
Oh, interesting.
So I also go to the VA to
Uh-huh.
express my concerns there also, about different things that are going on. I guess
Hmm.
for me, and I like sharing this little part. Our
Uh-huh.
auxiliary unit went to see the spinal cord injury center,
Oh.
and um, the soul is broken going in there only because I know they could have so much more. So from COVID,
Uh-huh.
the pool had not been used, not at all.
Oh, the swimming pool or the
Yeah,
lap pool? Oh,
yeah, the
okay.
swimming pool so that you could put them in that warm water and give them
Hmm.
exercises and stuff, which is life saving.
Yeah.
And so when I spoke to the new director, I told him, I said, well, I take aquatic therapy. And he says, you do? I said, yes, it really helps my mobility. And I said, I'm really wondering why we haven't gotten the spinal cord injury people in there. And I started
Hmm.
tearing up, and I was trying not to, but I became
Hmm.
emotional. And he says, I don't know, but I will get back to you. And within a
Okay.
couple of days, he had his
Uh-huh.
secretary call me, and she said the pool mechanism is still broken to lower the people. We're talking 4 years later.
For
But the
sure.
good news is in the beginning of January, it was fixed. And now
Yay.
and now they are the first ones going in the pool. Nobody else quite yet, but they are getting in the pool now. And so
Good
they're
job.
working on more people to actually, be the therapist for them and that kind of stuff, so they can expand out towards the rest of the veterans. But that was so important to me, and
Hmm.
I do that kind of stuff because even though I can say, woe is me, and this is happening to me, and this is happening to me, but to
Mhm.
be almost like paralyzed in a bed and you're still trying to
Mhm.
survive and you're still trying to be cheerful. And I'm telling you, they were singing and they were laughing. And I was like, I gotta fight for them, you know. And and spirituality, my segue is sometimes like a fight for people.
Yep.
In my spiritual walk, I feel like I'm fighting for people. Make this
For
happen.
life.
Yes,
Yeah.
for life and for love.
Yeah.
I don't know that was a long story, but I had to get it out.
No, I appreciate that because you're right. Sometimes being a chaplain is advocating for life and for people's ability to enjoy it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So
So
we go
sometimes you
back
got
in
to
a
roll
couple
your
of
sleeves
months.
up.
I can't wait to see them
Are you?
again and see, yeah, because we all rotate when we go there. Each auxiliary unit
Okay.
rotates when we go there. So we go back in a few months and can't wait to see them,
That's,
knowing that they're
oh,
getting
that's
in the
nice.
water and everything and getting aquatic therapy, getting away from the bed and, getting into
Mhm.
some water, some nice warm water and feeling it and, feeling alive, getting some exercise.
Yeah. Because some spirituality, it's all about meaning making, depending. Um, but sometimes it's also in the meaning making, finding out what your limits are. What are you capable
Hmm.
of doing? Right.
Hmm. Right.
And we don't know what that healing looks like physically and spiritually, there's no limit to it, right?
Limitless.
I think so. I think being a spiritual being is limitless. Um,
Hmm.
like the prayer, the studies that they're doing, it's called biofield, where
Hmm.
they are starting to look at the fact that I can be thinking about you here in Minnesota and I can be sending you good thoughts
Yes.
and it can affect you. And what is that effect? That whole energy field, if you will, the things that we've never been able to really see before. It's kind of fascinating in 21st century.
It's like when you call that friend. I was just thinking about it. I was getting ready to call
Yeah.
you. And it's like, were you
Yep.
really? But they really were. They would get, or the phone rings and it's that person. It's like, I was just thinking about them, sending good thoughts
Yes.
their
Exactly.
way, hoping they're okay. And
Yes.
they call me, hey, how are
Yeah.
you doing? What you been
Yep.
doing?
Yeah. I think it works.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And in our culture, we seem to think we need to know the answer. Like we have to have the facts.
Right.
We've lost our ability to trust the universe, if you will,
Mm,
which is too bad because, God has yet to sit on the judgment or in the, what do they call it? The seat, the, the accused seat.
oh, yeah.
He's already done that work, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like answer for yourself. But anyway,
The
we've
universe
been,
is full of so much that can be given to us if we try. I still think about the pyramids that they are only now beginning to figure out how they were built.
yes.
But if they understood
Yeah.
it then, how much more should we be advanced just by tapping into what God can give us? I mean,
It
I've
should
seen
be
a lot,
humbling that we don't.
right? I've seen so much in my 66 years, because we did the New Mexico Legion College, and I taught
Uh huh.
team building. And
Uh
when I
huh.
was talking about myself, I said, "Oh yeah, I remember when the Xerox came out," and they're looking at me. Some of the younger people looking at me. I said, "Yeah, y'all might not know what that is."
Back in the day,
Back in the day, but
I
so
still
many
keep.
changes. What do you keep?
There is. There is. There's so many changes in keeping up with them. And then it's like chasing your tail, right? Kind
Right,
of, we were talking about that earlier, is like, wait a minute, we're human beings. And so we have to make that space
right.
to
To
hug.
receive.
Um, there's so many things that go beyond time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I know it may be a little off topic, but I talk about things like when cell phones came out And older people said, I don't want to have a cell phone. It's of the
Learn them.
devil. And now
Mm-hmm.
I see more people that are my age and older using cell phones better than I do. It's like, okay,
Oh
I
yeah.
see you. But they were
Mm-hmm.
scared of it at first, and it's good when you
Yeah.
can continue to embrace the technology, because the technology is there for us.
Yeah.
And even as we try to get the different groups to come together, we will find that if we can get the spirituality part in the American Legion, that the younger people are going to help the older people as they gracefully move on. The older people will
Yes.
be able to impart wisdom into the younger people so that they succeed gracefully. You see that?
Yeah. I did.
Because
I
because
caught
you
that.
you won't always be able to talk to your grandchild, but you might be able to talk to that guy that wants to invent something to do at the post. And the two of you might go fishing or go out for lunch or something, and you both get to talk about what you see in life or what you've seen in life, or even talk about those horrible things, and know that you have a friend indeed.
I can listen and receive.
Mhm.
That's the
Exactly.
work that we do. Yeah. That's the spirituality piece. It
Yes.
transcends so many elements in this world that we can see and touch,
Right.
but we're touched
It
beyond.
removes all those blockers.
I think so. I
We
think
can
so.
do it.
I think we are doing it. Um, I just think we need to get closer to where the policies and the procedures are,
Right.
into the boardroom, because they've kept faith outside of, simply because of the First Amendment, misunderstanding
Mhm.
about all that.
Mhm.
And then we don't have the language. I- Um, I think because there's so many ways of being spiritual in religion, that everyone's got their own language, if you will, of how they
Right.
talk about it.
Right.
And there seems to be some puffery going on around too about who's right and who's wrong. Um, but the American Legion was created for everybody. That's why they
Right.
said we're Legion. So it's like, well, of course we can create that language, those commonality,
Right.
common words, right? That
Universal.
thank you, thank you, Karen.
Mhm.
The universal language that we need. So the shorthand of what we're talking about, and bring that into reality for all of us, no matter if we're celebrating, if we're on the highest mountain peak, or if we're in the deepest valley,
Lowest. Right. Mhm.
right? That there's no place that who you are as a spiritual being is without. You're always spiritual,
Always spiritual.
always. And it's a good thing. And it can bring about deep joy
Yes.
even in the suffering. Anyway,
Even in the suffering.
even in the suffering. Yes. I'm just looking at the time. We've been actually talking, and I feel like we're just getting started.
Right.
It's almost an hour.
Really? Dang.
Yes.
Okay.
I know. It's like, I'm just getting to know you. And I'm like, this could be just a beautiful conversation that we can continue on. And maybe we will too, because this podcast it's on YouTube and it's on Spotify. And I think there's a hunger out there, and you probably know that too, for people to be able to be spiritual beings,
Yes.
accepted, respected.
Yes.
And so I think we're going to continue to create the language, create the bridge across all the different ways that we express our spirituality, and make sure that we're at the table.
We have to get to the table. I
I
think
think
we can
so.
do it.
I think so.
I think
Yeah,
we can do it.
definitely. Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
because spiritually, we have already spoken it into the atmosphere.
That's a whole nother conversation, isn't it?
Didn't mean to do that.
No, that's good though. Speak it into being, because what you
Yes.
think, therefore you speak,
Speech.
therefore it becomes.
Mm-hmm.
I think, therefore I am.
And I've lived my life that way.
Yeah. In the Christian world, and even in the Jewish texts in Genesis, the power of the word.
Yes.
God used the word, that power, to
Yes.
create the universe in our world.
And life and death in the Christian religion is in the tongue.
It's in the tongue. Strong, isn't it the strongest muscle?
I think so. It does a
I
lot.
think it is. I think it's stronger than your thigh, your whatever
Wow.
that. Yeah, I think it's the strongest. Anyway, I like to give guests the last word. So as we end, is there any words that you would like to share?
I believe at this time, God is moving in a direction that we have never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And as we keep our minds and our hearts and our souls alert and continue to prepare ourselves to do the work, that we will all make a positive change in this world and we'll be glad that we were part of it.
Thank you.